If you want to start catching trades like this, stick around for this short video while I break down how simple it really can be. Because of this simple strategy, I'm able to catch trades just like this one every single week. If you make it to the end of this quick video, not only will you understand how I'm able to catch trades just like this, super simple, but you're also going to learn how I manage these trades and how I'm able to let them run so I can catch as much profit as possible. I don't want to waste any time, so let's get straight to it. So there's only a few things that you need to know about how I mark up my charts. So that's where we'll start. The first thing I do when I open a new chart is I like to mark up some support and resistance. When I'm doing this, I'm looking for key levels that price is rejected at multiple times. To start off, I'm going to mark up some resistance all the way up here. We see a couple rejections over here as well as over here. Then I can also mark up some resistance a little bit lower. Now keep in mind, these levels act as both support and resistance levels. If price is coming up towards that level, it's treating it as a resistance, right? And if price is coming down towards that level, it's treating it as a support. So up here, we have some resistance. Here we have resistance at one point, but over here, these rejections are bouncing off of it as a support. And then down here, we kind of have that level being treated as a resistance once again. When opening this chart, the first thing I see is this major resistance level up here. We see several strong rejections coming up, and that's a level that I want to keep in mind. I'm also quickly able to see that we have some support right over here, right? We see a rejection over here. We see some rejections over here as well. So we also have a decent level of support right there. Now, the kind of entries that I'm looking for are breakouts. I'm looking for breakouts of resistance levels, support levels, and trend lines, which I'll get into now. As you can see over here, I have a trend line marked up. And when I'm marking up these trend lines, obviously when I open up a chart, I'm seeing that there is a bit of a trend and I'm like, okay, that's where a trend line should go. And I start off that trend line at the bottom of the wick over here and I drag it on up. We see a couple rejections along the way, 3 solid rejections. Obviously there are more candles that are coming down, but I'm kind of, considering each pullback as its own rejection there. So 3 solid rejections of this trend line, and then we see a break out of this trend line. And like I said, this strategy is a breakout strategy. So I want to see those breakouts of the trend lines, support or resistance. So as we can see over here, we have a trend line breakout. And what that's telling me is that it's time to start looking for some sells. When we see an uptrend like this followed by a breakout, I'm looking for a sell. And when we see a downtrend followed by a breakout, I'm looking for a buy. And just to show you an example, over to the left, we have a downtrend, right, which I marked up. We then see the breakout. It does make a bit of a move coming on up here, pulls back to some support, but then does make that bigger move coming on up. So, the same kind of setup works for the buy and the sell. We just want that breakout where I can then look for the reversal. When I'm looking to catch these trades, there's a couple important things to keep in mind. The first is that I don't like to enter right after the breakout. I want to wait for a retest or a pullback to that previous key level before entering so that we can then see the reversal setup play out. So in this case, as we can see, we get that initial break and then it does want to pull back up towards some higher resistance. So I wanted to wait that out and stay patient. We also have a support level right here, as I marked up earlier, where we can see price reject a couple different times. When I see these rejections and mark up this level, I know that this is a level that price has struggled to break multiple times. So when we do see it break out, that can be some good confirmation that price is ready to make a move. A break and retest of this trend line like we see over here is some good confirmation for this sell setup, but waiting for the additional confirmation of a break of this support level is even better and leads to a much better entry. And like I said, this applies for buys and for sells. In this case, we're looking at a nice sell setup, so we want to see that break and retest of the trend line, as well as a nice break and retest of support. Another very important thing to keep in mind about these support and resistance levels, as well as the trend lines, is that they're not perfect or exact levels. They're more like zones. To use this setup for an example, we see a break and retest of this level, but it comes up and closes above where I have this level marked up. Now, we did see some rejections of this level a little bit lower down here. We also see some rejections a little bit higher. So, like I said, it's more of a zone. It's a little bit above and below where I mark up these levels. Some people like to mark them up with more of a rectangular box. I like to mark them up on my chart personally with these lines just because it's a little bit cleaner and it's a little bit easier for me to see. But like I said, it is more of a zone. I don't look for perfect exact rejections. I always try and be a little bit extra cautious. They're not going to tap these levels perfectly and it could lead to a lot of fake outs. So I like to be patient and make sure that we have a clean rejection before looking for a trade. I can't stress enough how important being patient is. When it comes to looking for an entry or letting your trade run, there are lots of ways that patience comes into play. And it's very, very important to develop that skill. And the more time you spend working on it, the more patient you'll be. When I entered this trade, we had seen a nice pullback in a top wick form on this candle. It did end up pulling back a little bit from where I entered, which is going to happen. Timing is one of those things that's very hard to get perfect every time, but the longer you've been doing it, the more consistent that will get as well. I trade live on stream here on the channel every single week, and this was my most recent setup caught live. You guys saw how I marked up my chart, waited for confirmation, then caught an entry, then let it run, and then securing my profit. I like catching trades live on stream because you guys were able to see this all happen in real time, but I thought this was a good opportunity to give you a recap of this trade and show you guys how it's done. I start off by marking up support and resistance as well as trend lines where I see fit, and then all there is for me to do is be patient for the right time to enter. There are a few different kinds of entries that I'm looking for when I'm trading a setup like this, so I'll break those down for you. The first is after we see the trend line break and retest. So over here, once we see the break and then we see it retest, that can present an entry opportunity coming down. Now, sometimes I avoid this, sometimes I'll look for it. It depends on the circumstances. In a setup like this, if the break and retest is small, like over here, for example, we see a break and a pullback, nothing too crazy, but we do see that break and retest, then I might be a little bit cautious because we could see it pull back further, which it did in this case. So like I said, patience is key at all times. Just taking a little bit of extra time to wait can make a huge difference. If we see a clean break and retest of the trend line, that can present a nice opportunity. My next opportunity for an entry is after that first one, and it comes after we see the break and retest of this next key level. So for a sell setup like this, it's going to be a break and retest of support. And if it's going to be a buy setup, then it's usually going to be a break and retest of resistance. Once we see that break and retest, that's another great opportunity for an entry. And just like with this trade, that's where I ended up entering. We see the break and retest of this trend line. Then after some more time, support is broken. I wait for a pullback, and that's where I hopped in. Obviously over here, we see a bit of a pullback after my entry, and then it does make that nice clean move. Remember, like I said, these support and resistance levels, they're more of zones. So we can close a little bit above that resistance level like in this situation and still be completely valid for the setup. When I was trading this live, we saw a nice breakout. We saw a solid pullback and it looked like it was getting ready to flip, so I hopped in. We then saw a beautiful move coming down where I secured partial profit and moved my stop loss to break even. I was starting to expect a pullback, so I wanted to secure some profit, eliminate the risk, and maybe look for another entry. After a bit of patience, we end up seeing that nice pullback over here where I then enter another sell. After making a bit of a move into profit and starting to see it move sideways, I decided to close full on my second entry, letting the remainder of my first trade still run. It then continues to pull back up a little bit, hitting some resistance up here, and then makes a beautiful move coming all the way down through that final take profit level. This was another beautiful trade that I caught live on stream using my simple break and retest strategy. There's really not much to this strategy. It's super simple once you start practicing and get the hang of it a bit. There's just a few basic concepts to understand and start applying. And once you start gaining some experience, that's when you're going to start seeing some incredible results. That's all there is to it. It's really that simple. And if you put in some work, you'll start seeing those results. If you have any questions about what I just showed you, let me know down in the comments and I'd be happy to help. And if you really want to get dialed in with a simple trading strategy like this one, make sure you subscribe and turn on post notifications so you get notified every time we go live and stream. Because all we do is break down charts, find high quality setups, and amazing entries just like this. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.